Okay, well, welcome back to our Define Your Relationship to Your Food series. I'm curious if anyone took any time to kind of look at any patterns in their lives that they kind of noticed about their food from the homework. Um, and it's okay if the answer is no, but anyone kind of noticed things where it said, what is one behavior, food behavior you do regularly? Define the cue, craving you want to have filled, or your response.
I have
That's
to
okay.
answer no.
Yeah, you want
You have to answer
examples?
no. Yeah, did you? Yeah, just if you, just with the homework, like if you'd taken any time to kind of look at that, like anything that you're like, oh, wow, I do this regularly, and I'm seeing that there is a typical cue, a typical reward I'm trying to get.
Yeah, with my stress load has increased exponentially since I have last seen you with my new position. And
Okay.
because I'm meeting with students more frequently and having more stressful situations thrust upon me, I've noticed that the response is to magnetize myself to whatever is nearest in the form of whatever is closest to me by way of the market or whatever is around.
Okay.
And so, yes, not crazy about it, but here we are.
Okay, no, but that's what we're looking at. So when stress happens, it's really just any time that stress comes up, you're grabbing for. Is it salty, sweet, any
You know
rhyme or
me.
reason?
It's whatever's comfort, really. So
Okay, comfort.
just a mixture
Okay,
of things. Yeah.
okay, all right. So we'll dive into some of that. Anyone else have any pattern they've noticed?
I got to knock off the late night dinners.
Okay. Well, we know you're a party animal, Paul. So,
We're talking school nights.
oh, okay.
Finding myself at 9:30 just chowing, and that's not a good thing.
Okay. Just curious to know when you're if you're eating at 9:30, when was your previous meal or snack?
And that's part of the problem too. Is I work a pretty full day, and by 4:35, I'm pretty hungry, and if I eat too much, then that affects workout options.
Okay.
But I got to have something.
Yep.
To at least tide me over. But if I eat something close to a full dinner, then of course within 3 or 4 hours I'm ready to go to bed and I'm ready to eat again.
Yeah. Okay, so the pattern of when and frequency is kind of
I gotta get something mid to late afternoon that's not
yeah.
too much, that's good, and then make sure I kind of queue up dinner for maybe 7:30ish.
Yep. Okay. So to kind of have thought through that. And I'm just curious, when you are doing like either your lunch or your afternoon snack, is that are you typically doing a lunch?
No, not like a meal. And it
Okay.
varies. I can't say I have a lot of consistency.
Okay.
I've tried doing fruit, I've tried doing granola bars, and it often just ends up being what's closest that's edible.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Well, we create, vitamin C, vitamin consistency. It's like really what trains our metabolism, our assimilation of nutrition, the nutrients, and as well, like our body. When you think of Last Supper eating, or like they've done studies on Biggest Loser, I hate to bring this in, but concentration camp survivors, like it does consistency, really your body is going to respond in a fight or flight response. And okay, so that's good to know. And not abnormal. Anyone else want to chime in?
I have a hard time sometimes, like in my work day, I'll just get so busy and then I won't eat, and then so it becomes very inconsistent.
Yeah.
And like since we've gone to virtual stuff with teams, I feel like my days are stacked from like the moment I start working until the moment I end, and I still haven't gotten a handle on setting good boundaries. And so I think I won't eat well, or like then I do finally eat like Paul, and it's like a steak at 10, and then
totally
it's like churning all night long, and I have the meat sweats, and I don't sleep well, and
yeah. I know I read, anyway, a whole nother digress, but yeah, so boundaries and finding time to eat. It's almost like, okay, if you're going to schedule me back to back, I'm going to be munching in your face on a Zoom call.
Yeah,
That's what,
exactly.
yeah. Okay. And I'm not coming up with solutions. I just kind of wanted to first just hear what some of these are because it's something, it's good. It's good information to start seeing from where we're going with today's topics. Any other final chime-ins? Okay.
Yep.
Well, let's launch in just because there's a lot to cover. So what we covered and where we're going today, we talked about we're in relationship with food. And just like any solid relationship, we have to apply the same principles. Trust, communication, showing up, keeping it fun and curious, all the things that we want in our best dream movie scene relationship, we've got to also apply those principles. And we know that takes work and effort. We're on a journey. Instead of just thinking we're trying to get to a certain weight and then, or like we're going to get to this one level and then our health is always going to be the same. Like it just doesn't happen that way. This is an ongoing journey. We talked about, focusing your goals on not just the outcome, where you want to be, or the process, how you want to get there. You want to run a marathon, all right, you're going to have to do 10 miles of running, every day, just hypothetically. Sherry Coons will say no on that. We got to progress up. But then our identity. So remembering, like, if we want to have positive goals, or goals that are successful, then we need to create and think like I'm a healthy person. So we're going to come into this class just remembering I'm a healthy person. I eat healthy foods. Like just that is where in James Clear Atomic Habits, like we have to start thinking of ourselves as that person we want to be, and then we make decisions from that identity. Now we're launching into kind of where we are today. So let's just really quickly, you guys know I like to do this. If you want to just take a moment to ground yourself, gently close your eyes. You can turn your video off if that makes you feel more comfortable. Feet on the ground, sitting in your chair or wherever you're sitting. I know one of us just got delivered an amazing massage chair to her house today, so she may be sitting in that right now. So just go ahead, place your hands, palms face down on your thighs. Close your eyes or just gently look down at your feet or the floor in front of you. Take in a deep breath to the count of 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold. Count 3, 2, 1. Exhale. 3, 2, 1. Hold. 3, 2, 1. And now just take a deep breath in on your own count, ideally to the count of 4. Long, steady breath in. Hold for the count of 4. Exhale for the count of 4. Hold for the count of 4. Just do a couple more breaths like this on your own. And start feeling what you're feeling like in your chair. Do you feel heavy or light? Cold or warm? Observe as you're breathing where your head is. Is it zinging right now? Do you feel relatively calm? What do you hear from the outside world? Just presencing yourself to the here and now. Take another deep breath in and out wherever you're at. And I'm going to just repeat that affirmation from last time. My body is a gift. It is a tool for me to learn about life and to enjoy and experience life. I invite my body to teach me what it needs and wants to be the most healthy person possible. So take a deep breath in, just affirming to yourself, your body is a gift, it is a tool, and it is a vehicle to live life with. And then gently open your eyes. That helped a little bit. Since we're all busy in our days and it's now freaking December 1st. Okay, so as I talked with you guys last week, I really believe in kind of this mindful, intuitive eating model. And then I also believe in having some nutritional basics, some nutritional knowledge. So this is obviously not an all-inclusive class. There's a lot of content to cover, but intuitive eating is not focused on the weight. This is what we talked about last week, right as we were wrapping up. It's not about the weight, but it's not about the weight. So our bodies are going to reflect in our weight what is going on in our thoughts about food, about our body. But weight is such a minimal part. Like, we can have genuine health at any weight. And so, the idea of throwing out the scale. I'm living with my boyfriend now, and he has a scale, and I hate it. Like, I haven't had a scale in 15 years, and I'm like, oh, that scale, when you get on it's good in a way because it creates some boundaries, but it also can make you neurotic and forget, and you start to get like judgmental of yourself and your body, rather than and using that as a sign of worth or not, rather than using your own body and your intuition. So you'll get to decide what you want to do with that. But let's just throw out that whatever weight you're at, many of us are, if you're battling the same 5, 10, 20 pounds for the last 5, 10, 20 years, then it's not about the weight. And the fact is, we're getting older, and our body weight's going to change, and our shape is going to change. So if we don't come to peace with the way that we eat, the way we view our bodies, the way we view food, we're just going to carry that into our 70s and 80s. And unfortunately, I see that in my own mom. So intuitive eating focuses less on changing the types or amounts of foods and focusing more on how you eat and how you engage with food and your eating experience. There's a great book, Intuitive Eating, it's somewhere here in my room, that I do recommend for people. I can send out that link to that. But, that's why it's like noticing, like Paul was saying, how and when he's choosing to eat. Ariel, how and when and what triggers. Your desire, the goal is to listen to your inner cues to achieve true sustainable health. And that fluctuates, and we get to be okay, just like the vagaries of all of life, because nothing's consistent. Like, we get to use our food and our bodies as a vehicle to grapple with the fact that nothing's consistent, and things change. And we do our best to live in our bodies with those changes. But I also believe you combine this internal wisdom with external knowledge. So we're going to launch into so today we're going to talk about mindful intuitive eating, honoring our true hunger. There are no good or bad foods. This is not a moral decision. Shy of killing the chef that prepared the food, that becomes a moral decision. The food that's prepared is not morally good or bad. We're going to talk a little bit about gentle nutrition. How do you handle some of your trigger foods and your trigger behaviors, the sugar or the eating late at night or watching TV and eating chocolate? We'll talk about having fun and being flexible and mindful movement. So, vitamin awareness. This is our vitamin A. John Kabat-Zinn, who is really the father of mindfulness, says mindfulness is the awareness that arises through paying attention on purpose in the present moment, non-judgmentally. So giving attention to how and what and when and the circumstances around when we eat is going to fundamentally heal our relationship to food and to our bodies. And it just starts literally with being willing to experiment with new ways of eating, new foods. Um, who drives well? Who drives and eats? Anyone driving to work and eating, or sitting at your desk and eating?
Oh,
I know
desk all the time.
desk all the time, right? I mean, it's totally what we do. Today, as I was listening to the intuitive eating book while I was walking, I was like, I will eat my smoothie, drink my smoothie this morning without doing anything else. And then I laughed. I'm like, I'm listening to a book while I'm doing this. And it literally, my smoothie, I was like, this smoothie's taking so long to eat. I need to get to my email and my, okay. So distracted eating. So being present. So what I'm inviting you guys to do is in your food experiment, while you're eating, while you're thinking about eating, after you're eating, try to minimize the distractions. If even for 15 minutes you could sit at the table and eat even if it's just part of your meal, not doing anything else. Literally just torture. It is. It's like we're so not used to that. So I just challenge you to try to sit there, to minimize the music, the TV, the cell phone, the book, anything that you're doing other than eating, to be present and start being present for at least 15 minutes of one of your eating endeavors each day, to just be there. And as you sit down at the table, take 3 breaths before you start eating. Halfway through your meal, take 3 breaths. Put your fork down, take 3 breaths. And then before you finish, stopping and taking some breaths, putting your fork down, pushing the plate forward to stop and think, how do I feel right now? Paul, what's your question?
Thanks. I was wondering if that icon would work for you.
Yeah.
I can guess, but all right, since I'm not in the habit of this undistracted eating, what's the benefit I should be getting?
Okay, great. So, okay, one example, there was a study where one group, I may have mentioned this the other day, the last class, but dichotomous listening. One group was given a mineral drink, told to drink it, no distractions. They just sat there with nothing but drinking that. The other group was sitting there drinking it, and they were asked to listen and try to listen to 2 different conversations going on at the same time. And mineral absorption of the first group, 100%. Mineral absorption of the second group, 0. So it literally, the focus brings, so you're calming yourself down. So any of your fight or flight responses, the cortisol, those fight or flight hormones are diminished. And that is going to put your body, so you either have your parasympathetic nervous system, which is known as the rest and digest system, and the sympathetic nervous system is your fight or flight. When you're in fight or flight, your body literally shuts everything down to only be able to respond to the tiger chasing you. So any of the digestion, any of the processing of the food stops when you're in that stress state, the doing too many things at once. And obviously it's going to be a level of, if you're sitting and reading a book, you're still in a relatively calm state. But what you're trying to do is, as much as possible, through the deep breathing. So oxygen also is important in your body as you're breathing. So think about a wood-burning stove. You shove it with tons of wood and paper, so there's no oxygen in there. What happens to the fire?
Right.
It doesn't burn. When you give time for space and for oxygen to get into your digestive process, that actually fuels your metabolism. So metabolism increases, your assimilation of the nutrients increases, your awareness of actually being full and satisfied increases, rather than sometimes the overeating is because we're not even recognizing that we're eating and when we're actually full. So listening to satiety cues, your hunger cues, and then your satiation cues increases as well. Does that help give some of those reasons why?
Yes.
Okay.
Good
So,
answer.
yep, perfect. Share reasons why. Thank you. So, calorie burning, nutrient assimilation. So, breathing, slowing down, being present to the experience, and then feeling that awareness the before, during, and after is going to help you say, how does this food choice and method and how I'm eating affect me? Do I feel full? Or do I not? Like, do I feel happy about this experience? And as this class goes on tonight, we'll kind of build upon this. But my real challenge is taking even 15 minutes of focus, or take each meal and say, I'm going to try and be focused for 5 minutes of this meal. That would be my challenge, because as we do that, we start to change our whole awareness of how we're relating to food. If we're in a relationship or a friendship, Paul, you and I are having a conversation. If I'm distracted, pretty quickly you're going to know I'm distracted. I'm going to do an at the wrong moment. And I totally admit when it happens. I just tell my friends and loved ones, I totally didn't even hear what you said. And that's essentially what we're trying to tell our body is, I'm hearing what you're saying and I'm listening to it. Because remember, we're building a positive relationship. Okay, so body hunger. Typically, we're going to know when we're starting to feel hungry. When our stomach growls, we start to feel low energy, lethargic. We feel shaky, and that's especially if we have any blood sugar issues. We start to get headaches. We stop being able to focus. Any other cues that any of you have along the way that help you know it's time? In your bodily sensations, because we eat at different, sometimes we eat just based on a clock, breakfast, lunch, dinner. But if we're really listening to our bodies, what we're trying to do is get to that point where we're not ravenous, because when we're ravenous, no bueno. We want to be able to keep our body just to the point that we're starting to feel these initial stages. And typically that's somewhere we should be eating no further apart than 5 hours. Typically for many of us, it's 2, 3, 4 hours that we're starting to feel that hunger. If we're not eating foods that are nutrient dense, we may have just eaten a meal and still feel that hunger or start to feel it really quickly. So we're going to talk a little bit more about how to make sure that you are at least fueling your body with food so that that hunger isn't continually coming. But one thing that we're trying to listen to as we implement vitamin awareness is our body hunger. And that does not have to be on the same schedule. April, Paul, Nikki, Ariel, Sherry, we all could have different methods and times that we feel that way. We might do a heavy workout one morning and feel hunger much more quickly. So what we're trying to do is really start to recognize, when does my body tell me it's hungry, and not judge it. It's okay. If we're not being obsessed with the weight loss, our bigger message is, when do I feel hungry? When do I need to feed my body? Because if we're not listening to the response, again, our body will start to go into Last Supper mentality, where we're like, I've got to get this food and get it now, and we overeat and overindulge, or our body is I may have just had a brain lapse, or we're it's in like a scarcity mindset. So even our metabolism slows down to be able to prepare for a starvation mode. So you've got your body hunger. I want to talk to you about a concept called primary versus secondary foods. So this is something that Ariel kind of brought up there, is comfort. What are we really hungry for? So through my Institute of Integrative Nutrition, we learned, like, we have primary foods. and we're going to talk about those in a moment through our Wheel of Life activity. Primary food is definitely more than what's on the plate. That is like what you are. That's, let's just look at this circle of life. The circle of life is an activity that I'll send out to you guys where you think about a wheel on a bike. And if you were to take this wheel and say, how do I feel my social life is? And you were to put like in that little square, a dotted line, if all the way out to the circle means you're totally satiated and happy in that part of your life, like scale of 1 to 10, you're at a 10 in your social life. The inner circle is your 1. And you want to rate yourself based on where do I feel with joy regularly in my life, with spirituality, with my finances, my physical activity. Am I learning and getting education? How's my career? So some of these things are these primary foods that are way more important than just the food that we're putting in our mouth to fuel us. And when we are not conscientious about expanding that circle out and getting as many of those out to the 10, the full circle, our wheel is going to be it's going to be a pretty rocky bike ride, but we're going to also start turning to food as the response to a hunger that never can be filled by an actual edible food. Does that concept make sense? You've got your primary foods, you've got your secondary foods. You want to look, what we're doing when we're looking at our hunger is, what is the true need right now? Is it comfort, where I should be fulfilling that comfort? And what we do is we look at patterns in our lives and say, I typically turn to food when I'm stressed. I typically turn to food if I'm angry or depressed or lonely or overwhelmed. And we've got to start having a new arsenal of arrows in our quiver where we say, oh no, when I feel overwhelmed, food is not the answer. The answer is, here's the 3 things I do. I go out and take a walk. I get out in the sunlight. I call a friend. I write in my journal. You start to have some new arrows in your quiver that instead of grabbing for the cookie, you're going to pull that other arrow out first, and you're going to go to that. Because we'll never be able to fulfill that need and cover up a primary need with our secondary foods. So Joshua Rosenthal, the founder of Institute of Integrative Nutrition, said, sometimes we are not fed by food, but by the energy of our lives. These moments and feelings demonstrate that everything is food. So we're digesting all the time. We've taken thousands of experiences of life that can fulfill us physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. The extent to which we are able to incorporate them determines how enjoyable and how worthwhile our lives feel. So our wheel is nice and we're not having a bumpy road. When we use a secondary food as a way to alleviate or suppress our hunger for primary food, the body and the mind suffer. If you are not getting the primary food you need, eating all the food in the world won't satisfy hunger. Any comments, thoughts about that?
I have to say the concept of everything we're taking in as food really is just an eye-opening change of semantics that really does ring true. Like thinking about all the events which we take in, where we get distracted, or we are just so consumed by what's going on in our world that we don't eat. That happens all the time.
Yeah.
That really is such a wildly different perspective of looking at, different perspective that is so true.
Yeah. And so that would be like a challenge, is to look at areas that you are typically, emotions that you're having typically about that when you're going out and eating, take a moment. And that's actually on our, it's not in a complete correct order now because I made some tweaks to the spreadsheet, but taking a moment over the next couple days, weeks to see, I typically go for food when, think about some new things that you could put in, because food may be it. But just like any problem, there are usually multiple solutions. Think about 2 to 3 other solutions to that craving and try filling it with that a couple times to see if it changes that hunger where you're like, food is the answer. So in the circle, so one thing in this concept is sitting with emotions. So we live in a society a lot of times where sitting with hard emotion is challenging. But if we can't ever sit with it, we're always going to be trying to scratch that itch. I don't know if your experience has been this, but when you actually sit with an emotion, it's usually pretty quickly that if you allow for it, that it actually can pass through you. Evelyn, so in this intuitive healing book, she says, find ways to comfort, nurture, distract, and resolve your issues without using food. Anxiety, loneliness, boredom, and anger are emotions we all experience throughout life. Each has its own trigger, and each has its own appeasement. Food won't fix any of these feelings. It may comfort for the short term. It may distract us from the pain or even numb you into a food hangover, which then we're in like this stupor where we don't even know what we're feeling physically, mentally, emotionally. But food won't solve the problem. If anything, eating from an emotional hunger will only make you feel worse in the long run. You'll ultimately have to deal with the source of the emotion as well as the discomfort of overeating. So this component of the class, you're going to be starting to look at what does true hunger mean for you, and looking at like, all right, this is not true hunger. What do I need to fulfill? So that's that vitamin A. Stop, sit with it. There's a story in through one of these books that I read where he was used to chowing down on popcorn. And one time he just decided to realize, like, I feel lonely. I'm going to sit on my couch and not eat the popcorn. And within like 3 minutes, he was bawling, felt the total sadness of loneliness, and then it passed. And so did the craving for the popcorn. So I really want you guys just to think about, as we're creating a healthy relationship, you're looking for patterns of when, why, with whom you are triggered, and having these emotions, and then allow yourself to sit with whatever emotion comes up. Then we are not responding to life compulsively by trying to put a Band-Aid on something that really isn't going to fill that hole. And then through this, it's honoring your true needs. So just kind of an overall of what we're talking about. Learn about your own personal true hunger. What's the biological hunger? That's the rumbling in the stomach. Are you craving a certain taste? Or is there an emotion you're trying to fulfill? And remember, we can only cover so much. These are concepts, big, broad concepts that I want to give in just that story of trying to create a new relationship. Assess what you really want to eat. If you're really needing to digest something, what is it? In Overeaters Anonymous and in AA, they talk about think through the drink. So an alcoholic would say, oh my gosh, I'm totally craving a beer. I haven't drank in 10 years. Let me think through, okay, I'm going to take that drink. So let's just bring this back to food. All right. I decided I am hungry. I want to eat some food, or I don't know if I'm hungry or not. Take a moment to pause and think. And I know it takes time, but just like any relationship, it's going to take some time and effort and patience. Think through, okay, I'm going to eat that donut in my mind. Because really, it's only a few moments that it's on your tongue, hitting your taste buds, and then it goes into your stomach, and then it goes into your body, and it's going into your bloodstream. It's going to your brain. Then it's going to be digesting in your body. It's only a moment that it's on your tongue. Think through the bite and if that's really what you want. They also talked about assessing what you really want. The HALT acronym, has anyone heard of that before? It stands for, am I hungry, angry, lonely, tired? That's in any 12-step program, any addiction, any compulsion. You want to stop before you're going to do something that you're trying to reevaluate or something you're trying to change. Ask yourself, is there a different need I need to fill? Do I need to lay down for a moment? Do I need to express my frustration with somebody or go out for a quick walk or run? Do I need to call a friend? So just use that acronym as you're considering what you're going to do with your food. Recognize that not every day, so honoring your true needs, not every day is going to be the same. Right now, my smoothies, I do a green smoothie every morning. Right now, those green smoothies are like cut down to like 3 days a week, and instead I'm doing fruit with flaxseed and almond butter and some protein powder because it's cold. I don't want a freezing cold smoothie right now. Seasons change, our lifestyle. I mean, again, several of you talked about how busy we are, that can change when and how you're going to eat certain ways. Your age, are you sick or are you healthy? Do you have COVID and you can't taste? What's your budget like right now? Is that affecting what kinds of foods that you need to eat? Certain events, it's the holidays, those are all going to start influencing what it is that you really need. And if you're going to create a healthy relationship to food, there's got to be some moments of awareness to look at these things instead of just going through the normal patterns of your eating. We are ever changing. There's no one way of doing things forever. So any thoughts about that before we move forward? Any experience anyone has with these concepts?
Yeah, definitely experienced these things. No pun intended. You've gone pretty heavy on us the last 3 slides, and I'm kind of digesting it. I'm serious.
Okay, good. I appreciate the pun. Okay, so moving on, if we're creating a new relationship, we're aware, we start looking at what our body needs. We need to start thinking about what we think about food as well. So Jenny Jones, editor of More Love, she helps parents who are helping their kids with their food choices. If it's crazy for us and we're adults, think about like kids who like literally are taking crack every morning on these Starbucks drinks as their brains are developing. I mean, I'm just like, how are they even staying sane? But she says food is not a moral issue. It's just food. But I'm curious to know how many of you actually feel like there are some foods that are better or worse than other ones for you.
Do you mean
Absolutely.
nutritionally?
Okay, so we have nutritionally.
Yeah, is that what
Yes.
you're asking as far as better or not?
Yes, and then do you really have like this idea like that is a bad food? Or can you see the difference between making a food morally bad versus just realizing it's less nutritious? Because the way that we think about things actually adds stress in our body. Literally, we can affect what's happening physiologically. Think about one of your least favorite people and seeing them at Christmas. Think about being in traffic as you're trying to get to a meeting and you have 5 minutes to get there. Thoughts actually create a physiological response in our body. It increases cortisol and all of those stress hormones, and it actually, again, all of the assimilation, the nutrient absorption, the metabolism, the burning of the calories, all of that starts to shut down, which then affects the way that we digest. If we are thinking of things in good or bad, it's going to affect the way that we embrace food, the way we embrace our body. If you spent the day pigging out and all you can think about is, I ate so badly, I'm going to get fat, that is not going to prompt us to have like a better day the next day. Guilt is not the solution. So I just, here it's just making peace. This is a philosophy of mindful intuitive eating, making peace with food. Really quickly, mindful intuitive eating, basically, the model says you need to be able to eat anything at whatever amount until you can make peace with it and start recalibrating yourself back to then being able to make healthier food choices. I'm going to argue that we do need to be, if we're going to really get to a good point of being able to make good, healthy decisions, we need to eat nutrient-dense foods. But the concept of just making peace with food and saying we're not going to come into an eating of a food that then creates a cascade of events in our mind that then creates a negative response physiologically. It doesn't make our minds go any better. We've got to be able to, and this is one of the things we talked about. I talked about this in my Thrive Through the Season class. We have to be able to release our meal. We have to be able to eat whatever we've eaten and release it. Because the longer we stay in that cycle of judgment about our choice, the more that we are destructive. Mark David says, by coming to food without any preconceived judgments, we have an openness that allows for biological questioning and exploration. By listening to body feedback and being open and attentive to the food we eat, we begin to make connections and draw conclusions between what we eat and how we feel. We discover pertinent information about our nutritional needs that no book could ever teach us, which is why I'm not a heavy on the nutrition side, like nutritionist kind of person. I'm not suggesting reckless eating. I'm suggesting conscious eating, taking full responsibility for what you eat. So I'm just asking you, challenge the food police. Eat without the good and bad list, and instead eat with the vitamin awareness to question our bodies. Our bodies 100% will teach us over time what is going to be the better choice. And when we continue to do that experimentation, we will, I promise, 90% of the time, 95% of the time, make the healthier choice. But we have to give ourselves permission to eat what we're eating, whatever it is, good or bad, assess it without a moral judgment, and then move forward.
I have a comment.
Yeah.
I'm going to say some of this is so interesting because in our society too, it's like we all have our own insecurities, but then everybody else's insecurities are thrust on you. Like groups of friends, like everybody's vegan or vegetarian, and then they hate on the meat eaters. And then the meat eater redneck hunters hate on the vegan vegetarians. And it's like, I don't know, it's like having better conversations. I was at a party last week and one of like the meat eaters was like harassing someone else because they don't like rare meat. And so like, you're a moron because you don't know that that's the best way to eat meat. And then it just like completely shut down my friend and I wanted to punch this guy in the gut. But it's like, so like there's so much shaming. But then like the vegans, whenever I bring meat to the vegan group, I feel like they give me a lot of shit. And I'm like, and I'm like, I'm sorry, and like, I'm an O blood type. And that's like the only thing that backs people down,
You're like, look at these things I have. These teeth are meant to tear meat. No, I'm just kidding. But I think that you're so right, April. And that is any my friend taught me, get curious before defensive. C comes before D in the alphabet. Get curious before we get defensive. And that's on the side that we approach people and that we respond to people. And I think that it is a huge issue in our society now. I mean, we just cancel culture. It's like, you're not doing it right. Every one of our potlucks has now changed in our friend group. For those of you not in my friend group, depending on whose house you go to, you are or not allowed to bring certain things. And there is judgment. And, there is an element of respecting the way other people are doing it. And this is a whole nother conversation, but just like how to be able to say, I love that. Awaken with JP videos. Yeah, I love it. JP's
You
the
know what I'm
best.
talking about.
Yeah, he's the best. Um, and so that's again having to do with boundary keeping, discovering what our world is personally, and being able to find better ways to talk to other people about it and to let other people, come to decisions themselves. Whole nother topic. And yeah, it's, but you're so right. I mean, it is, so thank you for chiming in about that. Like it's not just our own judgments, it's others. I mean, um, when I was sugar free for 4.5 years, I had to get used to a lot of people. I remember Andrew, one of our mutual friends, was like, I liked you better when you ate sugar. You thought I was more fun. And I'm like, that is so funny. I remember I went to a doctor. So I went to my OBGYN doctor and I was like, yeah, I'm not eating sugar now. And you guys are going to die. Okay, so think about an alcoholic going up to somebody and saying, I'm an alcoholic. I can't I can't drink alcohol. And somebody being like, oh my gosh, I had the best margarita this weekend. I don't understand why you don't drink. This doctor said to me, she's like, oh, that's such a, what do you mean? I had the best dessert this weekend. Why are you doing something so extreme? I wrote her a letter and I'm like, I cannot believe you would not support one of your clients in, and that is, I don't have the answer, but when I was sugar free, I would just say, hey, sugar doesn't work for me. Diabetics, you're just like, that doesn't work for me. And we're going to talk about this concept of should you be abstinent from something that doesn't work for you. So let's move forward just for now, but great point, April. Just tell them to F off.
I know. I was like, I feel like it is. It's like getting comfortable in your skin to like have those boundaries. And it's like trying to, and like people change too. Like you eat sugar, you don't eat sugar. You don't owe anyone any information,
Exactly. I'm discovering, okay, so if we, hang on, oh my goodness, I hate this when this happens. I'm going back the other way. Yes. Just remember, you're on your own food journey. You can say that to somebody. I'm on a fun food journey, finding out what works for my body and doesn't. I appreciate your input. Imagine, it's great that you found something that worked for you. I'm doing the same for me. So how do we know that a food, though, so taking from, we can eat anything. Talk to me about what you know in your body tells you that a food is sustainable, healthy, good for you, and what seems a little bit less sustainable. Like if I ate this forever and felt this way, that it would not feel as good. So talk to me about what it feels like in your body when you think you've eaten something healthy or good for you.
Yeah, I feel pretty satiated. Like if I eat something that's like nutritious and nutrient dense and full, like I usually don't have a lot of crazy cravings, right?
Okay. So you feel satiated and full.
Mm-hmm.
Or satiated.
Yeah, satiated and just pleasant.
At our next meal, I'm going to be like, April, do you feel pleasant?
I'm like, I've reached the pleasant feeling of the meal. I'm good. Thank you.
I love it. Okay, anyone else?
I'd agree with April. I'll spare you the details on the stuff that I know is bad.
Okay.
Right? Yeah, it's just, you can tell.
Okay, so let's just talk about that just for time. Sustainable foods are going to typically help you feel energized. You're going to have fewer food cravings afterwards. Your hunger is going to be stabilized, so it's not like you're going, woo! You're going to feel greater mental focus, clarity. You're going to probably sleep better. You're going to be more regular. Remember, everybody poops, the book. You're going to have more stable moods. When we're eating foods that are less sustainable, think Thanksgiving, sluggish, fatigued, brain fog, Your hunger is going to be erratic. You're going to eat something and then right away feel, or who like eats, sometimes I'll eat Thanksgiving dinner and be fine. And then I eat the sugar part and I am just like, ugh, burp central. I mean, yeah. Anyway, I'm going to spare that story. Restless sleep. You're going to wake up feeling like your mouth is dry. You might feel puffy in the morning, bloating, gas. Are these pretty universal understandings that when you know you've eaten something that feels better or worse for you? Can we agree that that's kind of the norm?
Yeah.
Yeah,
It feels
totally.
good at first, though.
Oh, yeah.
Like if I'm eating 50 Reese's peanut butter cups, at 25, I feel pretty good. But then it's like at 50, I regret it.
Okay. And that's great. That's your learning of yourself. Like, it's like Nikki and I are peanut M&M fans. Like, when did you hit the point where it then doesn't feel good in your body? And you know what? That is the truth. No one meal or choice is going to change your body and your experience for the rest of your life. It depends how often you're doing it, how far you're going. But if you can trust that with some awareness that your body is going to, through time, lean you more towards. So again, I did Lent in college. That was the first time I ever went sugar free. I felt so good. I was your missionary evangelist extraordinaire. This feels so good. I feel amazing. This will change your life. And then by Easter, when Easter comes, when you can break Lent, by 10 in the morning, I had eaten so much chocolate, I was ready to die. I was completely on the right side of this PowerPoint. But a seed had been planted in my mind. Overall, I just started to move towards, I really actually want to feel that feeling that sustainable foods gives me instead of the unsustainable. That way, when I think through the bite, I take a moment to halt. I can say, where do I want this day to go? Where do I want this moment to go? And some days it's an effort. I'm going to go completely down the road of feeling like shit for the rest of the day. And other days you feel like shit for a couple hours, and you 3 hours later you can have a great meal full of protein and fat and fiber and nutrients, and you can shift the whole way that your body feels. If you want to listen to my Thrive Through the Season class, that one kind of talks about some things you can do if you've had some reckless eating to kind of get your body in sync pretty quickly. Anyway, okay, so then let's talk a little bit about nutrition and how it ties in. If we know how our body feels when it's good or bad foods, and I like to say sustainable, not life sustainable. It just seems better. In mindful intuitive eating, they basically allow you to do everything. I think that we need to have some nutrition basics. So they say gentle nutrition makes food choices that honor your health and taste buds while making you feel well. So that sustainable side, the good side. Remember that you don't have to have a perfect diet to be healthy. You will not suddenly get a nutrient deficiency or gain weight from one snack, one meal, or one day of eating unsustainable foods. It's what you eat consistently over time that matters. Progress, not perfection, is what counts. So I like to, we're going to go into just a little bit of nutrient dense topic, but I like to say, give yourself a freaking fighting chance by bringing some, I think at least one heavy nutrient dense meal into your day, one a day. We'll talk about what that means. So if you're bringing some good nutrients in, then you can be a little sloppy. Or if you're general, you look at the composite of a day, a week, a month, you're bringing in some strong nutrient dense foods, you're going to be able to handle the vicissitudes of the holidays, the stress eating, the eating something bad for you. So if you are not kind of looking at some of your nutrient density and your meals and bringing in nutrient density, you're going to have a really hard time. And my personal experience is you're going to have a really hard time regularly fighting cravings, hunger, mood swings, not feeling really full and satiated. And so you're going to jerk yourself around. So I really think that taking away the food police, letting yourself eat foods without a lot of judgment, experiment, but also giving yourself some nutrient dense food. So what are those? This is not rocket science. I really don't think, like, when you go to the produce section and where there's like a little bit of a refrigerator going and you see a lot of fruits and vegetables, that's called nutrient dense foods, generally speaking. Nikki's favorite part of the store. So
I this whole list, and there's like nothing here that I eat on any kind of basis. Period.
Okay. And so I would be happy to talk more about how you could start creating things that are slowly expanding your list of nutrient dense foods that you add. I actually sent that in an email to you guys, and I can send it again. I sent you a nutrient dense food list. So some of these emails are going to spam. I'll send it again. But basically, start circling like the things you do eat on that list. And then circle 2 more that you're going to try to eat in the next 2 weeks. So
this might be prime opportunity since I haven't had my taste buds. I can start eating things that I've never liked, and maybe I'll start liking them when my taste and smell comes back,
I want that to Nikki's just overcoming COVID. I want you to, let's try that. Let's try.
I mean, I've been thinking about, I'm like, I might as well eat everything in my house that I don't like because I can't taste it right now anyhow, and clean my shelves out, but I haven't eaten, so.
Yeah.
Oh gosh. Nikki, I just read an article that broccoli and cruciferous vegetables are really good for fighting COVID. They might be like a major fighter. They like do something with your lungs and they're really great. So.
Oh, cute.
And I've never in my life eaten a piece of broccoli.
What?
Never in my entire life.
The Office of Kevin?
Huh?
Have you seen, on The Office, have you ever watched The Office before? Oh my gosh, there's a clip I will send to Britta to give to you. It's hilarious. It's the first time Kevin's ever eaten broccoli before. So I think you can relate. It's really good.
Yeah. I've never eaten broccoli. So.
Amazing.
But Nikki, you're a good woman, even though you haven't done that. April, stop judging Nikki.
No, I think it's amazing. I want to meet you in person, and I want to see you the first time you eat the broccoli. I'm
we'll
so
video
excited.
it. We'll video it. So.
Yeah, let's have a go-to meeting.
I can do it right now because I can't taste anything. So, but I don't know. Maybe that's a philosophy we need to explore on. When you lose your taste buds, you retrain them, and that's what I need to do: retrain them.
Okay, so as we're building, remember, we're building trust, we're building a good relationship. You can, through principles and practices, you can train your taste, you absolutely train your taste buds. 100%, it is what we're going to talk about, a concept called crowding out in just a moment. But so let's just kind of move forward with that, but you can train your taste buds because it's not just your taste buds, it's that awareness of the body feeling better when you experiment. When you experiment and your body feels good, you're like, I want to do this again. And there starts to be a tipping point where you start to crave the healthier things. So I just challenge you guys once a day to be thinking about, when am I going to get in one nutrient dense? So smoothies, leafy greens, blueberries, raspberries, blackberries are better than, and strawberries are better than your peaches and some of those, because these are lower glycemic. So it's not going to trigger as many sugar cravings. Throw in spinach. You can't taste it. I promise. It looks like crap, but Nikki, try it. Nut butters. Throw some nut butter in, or some nuts and things that will grind up. flax and chia seed. Use yogurt and nut milks. Look to see if there's sugar. Go for the unsweetened. The fruit will be sweetened enough. And then don't use juices as your base. You're going to add too much sugar and you're going to send yourself into sugar shock. Salads packed with different things, but also make it yummy. Add some like feta cheese, or cheese that you like. Don't be weird about your dressing initially. I love, but I do want to say be picky about your olive oil. Get good olive oil and throw it away once it starts to smell weird. I will personally come to your homes and bring you good olive oil. Paul, what's your question?
Yeah, I didn't want to interrupt. That's why I raised my hand. All right, so there were two things you ran through that I'd like you to talk about a little more. One is you talked about the low glycemic fruit, and you mentioned some that weren't as good. I didn't hear you mention, for example, cantaloupe, pineapples, grapes, where those fit in there. Could you talk more about what's going on there? And then let's talk about olive oil a little bit.
Okay, so just I don't have a list in front of me of the low glycemic foods. Those are going to be higher. Bananas, grapes, pineapple, mango. Those are all going to be on the higher end of the glycemic. If you're going to do higher glycemic, you just want to balance it with some good fats. If you want to throw in a tablespoon of coconut oil. This is why I put nut butters into mine. I actually do a protein powder. I use Vega. Vega has a plant-based protein powder. I use the Vega greens, so it also has even extra greens in it. So I do a vanilla protein powder. I don't know what the sweetener is, but it's one that's fine and I'm okay with. So if you're going to do higher glycemic, then either way, actually, whether it's high glycemic or not, you definitely, when you want to have this, you want some good fats in there. So I am a big believer. Throw avocado into a smoothie, or definitely on a salad. Like, you want fats, proteins, fiber. I feel like I'm forgetting one of those. Fats, protein, fiber. And some people are less sensitive. So when I do high pineapple, mango, that kind of smoothie, I am going to right away start feeling a sugar buzz in my body. So to me, if I'm in Costa Rica and walking up to a stand that's selling fresh pineapple and mango, I don't care if my glycemic levels go off the chart and my heart starts beating fast and I start to feel a little bit, pretty quickly after eating that, I'm going to get an actual hunger feeling where I'm going to want nuts. So I know my body to know high glycemic without fats and proteins, I'm going to quickly need something that's going to balance that out. So I figure pack it all in the same meal together. Beans. Paul, does that answer enough of that? I can pull up a list.
No, you're good. And I'm actually I'm gonna look into it a little further. I just really didn't know that, particularly with regard to fruits, because I try and eat X amount of fruit every day, that which fruits could make a difference in different ways.
Yep. And you're going to get, berries are going to have more fiber. You've got all those little seeds and things in there doing things in your intestinal tract. So that's going to be apples. I think an apple is a great, that is a little sweeter, but I think apple's great. I put something on Facebook the other day. I have this weird concoction I make. I chop up apples little. I put almond butter or peanut butter on it. I even do tahini because I like the bitter taste. Some people don't like the bitter taste. I put flaxseed. I put cardamom. I might put vanilla or almond extract. I even put sea salt on it and dark chocolate chips. And I stir it around. And to me, it's my own cookie batter that is like healthier. So
because it started with apples?
Because it started with the freaking apple, Nikki. Yes.
All right. And so I hope this is a quick answer. What makes a good olive oil?
Extra virgin. I like it when to me, you're going to use it within the first 2 weeks, month tops. So to me, I like nutty, bitter taste. You just have to be able to open it and smell something. It depends if you want more of like a, some people don't like, so I always ask at the grocery store. So Trader Joe's has certain ones, like I like their unfiltered raw one, but I like them when they're from like Spain and Italy. And I just like it when I know, I'll always ask, like, does this one have where I'm going to actually be able to tell that it's olive oil? Now, that might be an olive oil that isn't used for cooking. That's on my salads or my vegetables but like I might use a more generic or even a spray olive oil or coconut oil if I'm sauteing the vegetables. But if I want something to have flavor, I want it to be a good olive oil.
Okay.
So, and then I just really encourage lots of raw veggies, apples, pumpkin and seeds. But I also am one that I'm like, I like the Trader Joe's combo that has almonds, cashews, and dark chocolate chips. Dark chocolate. So again, I really believe in like having things you like too. So we're going to talk about that. Are you guys, I mean, we are probably going way. Okay. Do you guys have about 20 more minutes?
Oh yeah, I already ate dinner. Well, you weren't watching me, so I wouldn't get shamed.
Okay.
I'm good.
I worked on the power of suggestion and made a bowl of popcorn.
Awesome.
Ooh,
Good.
I love it.
Sprinkle some flaxseed on that and some coconut oil.
I have neither in my house.
Okay, so let's move forward from here. Encourage you. So here's the reason why I say this is that if you're going to create a new healthy relationship with food, you can't keep giving it shit and expect the relationship to improve. So I really believe at least one nutrient dense meal a day. But I also want to talk about, I don't believe in taking away stuff initially from your diet. Add things rather than taking away. So this concept of crowding out your food. Focus on what nutrient dense foods you can add to whatever you're eating. I think spinach is a good fallback. When I was changing my diet, I added spinach under, over, and in everything. Because I was just like, all right, that's a leafy green. It doesn't have a strong taste. It's not as strong a taste as kale. But then, as time passed, or like I would just chop, I'm also a big believer in chopping things up really finely. Like broccoli is a lot more palatable when you're not like, like chop things really small, and then you could make a pizza, throw on some spinach, some broccoli, some tomatoes. I know, Nikki, but if it's got good pepperoni and cheese, wrap up the pizza, eat it in your mouth. It's just this concept of crowding out rather than thinking, I got to take all of the good stuff away and just eat the crunchy, weird tasting stuff. No, just start adding it to whatever it is that you're eating. Last night I made a pasta. I sauteed up some tofu, zucchini, onions, broccoli, and added that to the pasta with the pasta sauce. And then Parmesan on it. So just the concept of crowding out, I want, with that nutrient dense food list, start trying new things, start adding it to what it is that you're eating already. And be thinking like, all right, I know I could just easily grab the chili. So I have chili upstairs that I made. It's got bacon in it. It's got turkey meat. It's got all this yum. But I'm like, I also need to get my greens. So I basically put a bowl of green, nuke the chili and put that on top pretty quickly. That lettuce is like wilted and you don't even really taste it. You do have to start changing your palate for textures. And then I also really believe in starting early with what your nutrient dense foods are. So if you can heavy load the front end of your day with nutrient dense, I'll share a quote in just a minute. You're going to start leaving less room and desire for unhealthy choices. And as your body has nutrients in it, the body isn't continuing to say, you're hungry, you're hungry, you're hungry, because it's getting the nutrients that it needs to not have as much of the cravings. Joshua Rosenthal says, if you fill your body with healthy, nutrient-dense foods, it is only natural that cravings for unhealthy foods will lessen substantially. So I am going to just give a shout out for waking your morning up. And before you even have, I am a coffee fiend. Before you have coffee, before you have anything, big glass of water, squeeze a whole lemon in it, lemon juice, and drink that. I even have a powder that I drink. It's called Greens First. It's the best tasting green powder I've ever found. And I do a scoop of that with a squeezed lemon, and that is how I start every day. It's just mentally, it's the first thing I do that says to myself, I am a healthy person. I do something healthy right out of the gate. So psychologically, that's the identity as well.
So what's the lemon for?
The lemon is amazing. Vitamin C, blood sugar levels, it alkalizes your body. So acidity versus alkalizing. Sugars, alcohol, red meats, that's all acid in your body. We know that acid corrodes. It doesn't mean it's always bad, but you want to always greens. Anything on that nutrient dense side is going to add more alkalizing effect in your body. And so you want to be alkalizing out of the gate. So yeah, I think lemon juice in the morning is great. It also clears out when you have whatever you've eaten the day before. It also, even though you think lemon would be acidic, it doesn't. It has an acidic effect in your body in the sense of if you are trying to push, if you've had a lot of dairy the night before, like lemon in the morning can push through the mucus that's in your body. It can, and even just in your throat, it can clear that out. So lemons, if you want to Google lemon juice, it's amazing for you.
It sounds like it'd be good to do at bedtime as well.
I will literally do a lemon water. I actually do magnesium at night before bed, but I could add the lemon. Magnesium it's good for your muscles. It's calming. There's a powder called Calm that I use, but you could totally do lemon at night. Or if I've had something heavy in my body, I will wait, a half an hour or so to let that digest a little bit, and then I'll do a giant glass of lemon water after something, because it also, again, is a trigger in my mind of, all right, I'm shifting whatever I've eaten, and I'm going to now have a big glass of water, even if it's just a glass of water. Do that. But anything you can do to reset psychologically, mentally, as well as physically. Nikki?
How do you take magnesium? Like in a pill or a powder or what?
I do it in a powder called Calm. And it's a yummy lemon raspberry. And it just helps my little brain that is always going a lot. It helps, yeah. So it's best when it's in a magnesium citrate. It just digests better and assimilates better.
I take a magnesium capsule every night or something. So I was curious how you did like that.
Yeah. Okay.
I take a capsule at night too, but sometimes I do the drink. Britta does. Yeah, I like to switch it up.
Yeah. Okay, and I'll tell you the other benefit. Sure. Sorry, I'm not always great on seeing the chats. Magnesium also keeps you regular. Just saying. I have no issues because I do my magnesium at night.
Yeah, I thought that's why you said you were taking it. So
yeah, it's good for nerves. It's one of the least. It's one of the minerals that most of us are deficient in, and it has so much to do with brain and body function. Okay, got that. All right, trigger foods. So, is there a food that you go to regularly? When you eat it, you want more. I think we went through this a little bit last time. This was in a poll version, but my polls weren't working. So, for me, sugar was definitely, I'm more of a sweet than the salty. Any other, like, you could like, I also really like sugar, flour, and butter combinations. So that can be a trigger combination. If there's anything in your diet that you're like, when I eat that, I know, like, this is my thing. Anyone have a favorite?
Fried foods for me.
Fried foods. Okay.
I like chips, like potato chips for my go-to.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean,
can eat a
my
whole bag of
go-to
Doritos.
Yeah, my go-to
Back.
food, I think, is that entire list. Let's be honest.
Yep.
But I mean, if I'm prioritizing fried foods, is probably my top. So sorry, Paul, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Nikki, instead of fudge on your ice cream, I would like you to chop up broccoli really finely and put it on the ice cream.
I will right now because I can't taste anything.
Okay, perfect. I actually don't know if you're good. Well, pretend that it's like Rice Krispies or something.
No, it's sprinkles.
Sprinkles. Okay. So trigger foods. This topic is really like, okay, we're watching our hunger, we're getting aware, we're seeing if it's emotional needs we're trying to fill or not. We're trying to add nutrients because the more nutrients we add, the more that our body starts to move more towards the desire for healthy foods. The fact is that these foods are crack. Like, we have to get it on the table that these foods are addictive in the body. They are as addictive based on dopamine studies that they've done as what cocaine does. We know sex does it. We know various drugs are going to do it. These foods are addictive foods. So the sooner we let ourselves say, this is like an addictive substance. This is like alcohol for an alcoholic. Some of us are better at stopping when we eat these foods than others. That's based on genetics, physiology, mental, our relationship. I think I told you guys that story about one time when I was starting on my health journey. I was so I was starting to pig out on sugar, and I was in a great mood, I thought, eating sugar, and the next thing I knew, I was totally mad at my family. And I was like, why am I having an emotion of anger right now? And that's when I realized, I saw the cycle of, emotion used to fuel my sugar, and then this cycle went kind of the other way. But the fact is, like, these are foods that will be addictive for us. So we do need to be aware of our own patterns and which things that make us feel out of control. And we have to then start getting honest about what we're going to do in response to these foods. So I'm going to talk about that a little bit further. We also can have eating behaviors that we realize. So the one thing is back here on, oh crap. The one thing is that, like, if we are finding ourselves not being able to create a sustainable, healthy relationship to food, we do, because we're jerking ourselves around with these kinds of foods regularly, we do have to realize, like, how are we going to, we're going to have to confront these foods in order to create a sustainable, healthy relationship. And the way we know we're being jerked around is going back to that list of, I regularly feel sluggish, moody, have bad sleep, all those things on that bad list. If we're regularly feeling those things, then it's time to take a look at this food. Or we're like, I want to eat healthy, but I keep, binging on these things. We have to look at the foods, and then we have to look at some of our behaviors. Do we regularly eat until we're too full? Do we finish everything off on our plate and then reach over and eat somebody else's plate? I had a guy once get his hand stabbed because he tried to eat something off of my plate that I was like, I want this food. Don't eat my food. Anyway, it was funny. So that's eating. Eating fast, often finishing before other people. Do we hide any of our eating habits? Like, I sneak eat food. These are eating behaviors. Eat regularly, searching for new diets. Do you snack, graze, or munch mindlessly? So suddenly that Dorito bag is gone. Do we sit and eat out of containers as we're moving around and not actually sit down and put things on a plate? So do we eat while we walk around, while we're driving, while we're watching TV? If we don't confront eating behaviors and eating certain foods, we are in an unsustainable relationship. We're never going to be able to shift some of these things. So while we're eating nutrient dense foods, we're also looking at these behaviors. Now, mindful eating would say, keep doing these things, keep eating whatever. In Overeaters Anonymous, had somebody say this, and I totally believe it. You can eat anything until your body tells you that you can't. As I was trying on my journey to create more and more health, I kept feeling like, oh, but I keep eating this sugar. And it's like I'm waking up, like feeling like shit. I never can stop eating this. And that is when I decided to go completely sugar-free for a while. So handling certain trigger foods and behaviors, you're going to need to sit down and make a list of things that you're like, I don't think this is healthy and it's supporting me. Whole nother topic. I can do some health coaching if you ever want to, but you have a decision to make. Total abstinence of food or a behavior. So think about if you're going into the lion's den, this is not like an alcoholic doesn't have to go to the bar. We have to eat. So you need to decide what are some guidelines you want to put around yourself. For me, it took 4.5 years of abstinence from sugar. And then I went to Italy and I'm like, I'll be damned, I am going to eat. And I told you guys this story. I ate like a whole jar of Nutella on the first day. And then immediately I'm like, I feel like shit. And within a day, I recalibrated myself to where I'm like, all right, I know I don't want to feel like that the whole trip, but I let myself eat gelato the whole time. And ever since then, I've been able to eat sugar because I redefined my relationship to sugar. My body was able to really see the difference juxtaposed between when I ate sugar and when I didn't. And now it's a choice. Now, and does it mean that I don't eat compulsively sugar sometimes? Oh yeah, I totally do. I mean, I eat and watch TV and eat sugar. I do it, but because I've taught my body, and my body can trust me, Britt is not going to do this every day forever. So you can decide on those behaviors. Okay, I'm going to write this down and I am going to try to not do this. This is a whole nother coaching session. This is a lifetime. This is learning and this is the tool. But you may decide total abstinence. You may experiment with different amounts. Try giving it up for a week. Journal about how you feel. When you resume, see how you feel. Journal about it. Keep repeating that cycle. Experiment with your body while you're eating nutrient-dense foods. I promise, there's going to be like a point where all of a sudden you cross over and there's a level of like your body feeling good more often. Paul, great to see you.
Thank you all very much. Good seeing you all.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night. Okay, I'll keep this going and whoops. Whoa. Okay, so I hate these things. All right, wrong direction. Okay, we're not far from the end. Oh my heavens to Betsy. Thoughts about that? Like we try to not, you might not need to go as extreme as me, but any thoughts about like, do you think you need to stop a certain thing completely right now in order to, and I was at desperation point, I'll tell you that. I was at the point where I was like, I feel like crap so much of the time that I am willing to do this completely. Until you're at that point, I would just say start experimenting with it and keep crowding your food out or like, or know that you have a day that you're going to eat something, or eat a little bit of something. I mean, I can't give you a down pat answer right now.
Yeah, I have to like not buy certain things. Otherwise, like, yeah, I just have to like if I'm out and about somewhere and I see it, I'll eat it. But I try to like, if I buy it, I know it's like I'm gonna eat it all. So I just want to avoid.
Okay, I love that, April. Bugles. I know you're a bugle.
Oh my gosh, they're so good. You can't stop.
So that's great. So I'm adding that to the list. Not having it in your house.
Yeah. Sorry, what, Nikki? I like jumped in right when you were saying something.
Oh, well, I was gonna say, like when you talk about total abstinence, I think I get like that gets me anxious. It's kind of like stopping smoking, you know what I'm saying? Like, oh, no, I can't do that, you know, like, well, just cold turkey. Nah, that's anxiety. And then I just talk myself out of even trying it.
Right,
So,
and that was from our discussion last time. Most of us are going to do better by crowding out. So get your nutrient dense meals in, drink a lot of water, stay hydrated, add foods to things. And I think that's a better way for 99.9% of us. I had to do that for a while. But I totally agree, Nikki. Now, if you told me don't eat chocolate, I would be like, no way. You know, I want this. I want that freedom. But I couldn't have it was taking away my freedom rather than giving me freedom. I was more trapped in a cycle than it being something worthwhile to me. So I do believe, like, yeah, experiment, crowd out, read about the foods you get stuck on. So I read many books about sugar so that I could start learning what it was doing in my body. So knowledge is power. Google about some of the things just to start seeing, and so that like I've given up. I had drank in like 3.5 months. I was in Sedona this weekend and had a few drinks because I'm like, I can have a few drinks when I'm away from my home and it's not a regular pattern. So it was like I'm on a trip. So I have some boundaries. I also read 3 books on alcohol so I could learn about what it does in the body, how it's affecting me. So knowledge is power. Try experimenting with unpairing some of your behaviors and seeing if there's a different outcome. So if you're always eating chocolate during TV, maybe have your dessert before you turn the TV on while you're sitting there being aware, then put everything away, brush your teeth, and watch your TV. It's not going to be as fun. It's going to be a shift, but experiment to see how it changes things.
well, I think the real key that you had mentioned is you have to be to the point where you don't want to feel that way anymore. Because I mentally know I don't want to feel that way, but I'm not done yet, or to that point where I'm ready to make the change. You know, I know
kind of like a rock bottom.
Yeah, exactly. Like at some point, just like any type of addiction, I think you have to get to that, whether it's a health scare or, whatever. But I know I have to cut back the sugar because I'm diabetic and it's hurting my body in a lot of different ways. But I don't really feel strong enough that I actually want to make changes yet, because
yeah. Which I really, really, really don't think that you should, in the sense of taking away. My thing with you is add. With all of us, add. And it will, like, your bodies will be more full. It's getting the nutrients. And then really looking at with your food triggers, handling these, understanding the real craving. Again, halt. Am I hungry, angry, lonely, tired? Do I need to do something else right now instead? So just in a snapshot, I think that developing a plan for yourself that includes nutrition basics with mindful intuitive eating, so not thinking of this as a diet or a big change. Like, you're on a journey of experimentation. You are like April, you learning don't have foods in the house, certain foods in the house. Like that's a lesson you've already learned intuitively for yourself. And then consistency. As much as possible, creating a little bit of a plan. Like in Overeaters Anonymous, they had a pamphlet called The Dignity of Choice, and it kind of comes around. So we did have food plans where this is just my journey, was that in order for my body to start trusting itself, body, mind, spirit, to start like trusting itself that I'm going to give it good food, that I'm going to give it consistently and not go on a starvation or anything like that. I was on a plan that was 3 square meals, and it actually gave me, I measured my food for a good year, measured out my food, and then 2 snacks. I don't know if you have to go that far. If you're not a compulsive eater, you don't feel like you're like eating things in a way that's super destructive. Whatever you do, though, do come up with something that creates some consistency. Your metabolism truly, through studies, um, responds affirmatively when there's consistency in the frequency and the amount of food that you have. So that's all. I mean, for now, that's all. Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think I attest to that because there was a period of about 4 months, maybe 5 months, where I was doing that HelloFresh,
Oh, yeah.
meal plan. And every week I was getting my 3 meals and I was cooking them and getting involved in it. And I not only lost weight, I do know that I felt better about it, but now I've gotten lazy. So back to frozen pizzas.
Okay. Oh, okay. So yours is okay. That's good to know. So the HelloFresh isn't solving. There's actually a company here called Quick Fresh where you don't have to do anything. It's prepared for you. So it's a prepackaged meal where you're not having to chop or do anything like that.
But I do like doing that. I think that invests me in my food. I will say that when we talk about our relationship with food, I actually love to cook. I love to chop everything up, and I learned about ginger and I'd never used it before. So like I enjoyed that part of it, and it made me enjoy my meal more, I guess. And I actually ate everything, even things I don't like. First time I ever ate Brussels sprouts.
Okay.
So like it was a good experience for me because I say I'm going to follow the recipe. I'm going to make the food the way it says, even put in the mushrooms that I absolutely picked around, but I put them in there and I cut them up and, so I think that's a positive thing.
I love it.
Okay, I go back to frozen pizzas now. So
to create consistency, it does require some planning. So one suggestion would be meal prep at the beginning of each week. So you literally have your cooking day. You could have some fun in the kitchen and just make it your day where you have salads already. Don't put dressing on it yet, but you already have chopped up all the celery, the lettuce, the things that aren't going to get all mushy mush. You have that ready. You make one of those meals from HelloFresh, but you've doubled or tripled the recipe, and you have that in the fridge. So that is a way to kind of. And then again, if you're going to have the frozen pizza, add some spinach to it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that'd be nasty. Oh, geez.
So one really important thing I want to share about is vitamin P, vitamin pleasure. So while you're getting your nutrient-dense foods, you're getting aware, you're deciding what you're going to do with your trigger foods. Another thing to do with the trigger food is that's not on here is measure out your trigger food. Tell yourself, I'm going to give myself my trigger food every day, but I'm going to give it and I'm going to measure it out. I'm going to put it in this Ziploc bag, and then I have it, so that you don't think there's a scarcity or an end to it. You're just starting to put a boundary around it. That could be a okay, package measure. Sorry, I just put notes in here. Then, because once we start telling our brain never, we start to go, F that, I'm going to have a ton of this. So you may, and I would actually go on the more generous side. I would do 2 cups of peanut M&Ms, and you know that's what you're having for the day. You put it in your bowl, and that's it. It because again, vitamin awareness is you've got to be mindful about it. If you have your bowl, you're going to watch your bowl diminishing, and but then you can tell yourself, I'm going to get this tomorrow. It's not going away. This keeps coming. Um, but here's the thing. You've got to hit a sweet spot to allow the pleasure you seek. So pleasure is an actual requirement in the nutritive process. I think I told you guys I made that asparagus smoothie one time, and it was the most revolting thing I have ever tasted in my life. But I was like, this is healthy. Ew. I finished it and was like, that I want something else to get this taste out of my mouth. Our brain and digestive system are essentially through the vagus nerve, because the vagus nerve attaches from our gut to our brain to our gut are connected. All of it is basically, when you're eating it, scanning the meal experience and saying, have I enjoyed this? Have I felt pleasure? Without that, we may leave the situation and still be hungry. So we do need to create meals and situations that feel pleasurable. And that would be, if we're eating distracted, we're going to minimize the pleasure. We're going to minimize that component of saying, I'm satiated, I'm full, that was pleasing. If we think we just have to eat nutrient dense foods and we don't get to put on some meat to it or whatever, we're not going to feel the pleasure. And when we feel pleasure, immune boosting chemicals and serotonins, dopamines, they're going to say, okay, ding, 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 achieved status. And then all of those pro-inflammatory stress hormones, the cortisol that kicks in when we're in fight or flight, those go down when we're having pleasure. So you kind of want to be able to have a food orgasm at the end of each of your meals. Like at some mini level, there needs to be something that says done, feel good, complete. When we don't, and when we're stressed, and that stress of the thought, stress of the surroundings, stress of the people we're eating with, the mood we're in, it's going to desensitize us to pleasure, and we may just keep eating and eating. So just encouraging you, be present, breathe, relax, and allow the body to actually derive the pleasure from the experience. I keep having to learn this in my life. Like, I mean, I'm right with all of us, like just learning, how do I sit, not be distracted, be present. Thoughts about that?
I can tell you it's twice as hard after COVID.
Because you can't taste.
Well, no, I'm just saying, like, the being present and focusing. And I mean, that's something I'm blaming it on COVID right now, but I feel like in the last, week, I'm just a complete fog on every single thing. And
So,
like, this is probably the longest I've sat still and focused, in a month. Last class. I mean, this is the longest. I feel like at work, as I'm getting into work, I'm like, every 5 minutes I got to find something else to do. So
Nikki, like, again, when I talked about like our seasons, age, illness, like we have to be flexible with ourselves. And it's true. I mean, you're going to have to, and that's a different topic, but like learning about how people with COVID, like that's a real thing.
Yeah. Well, and it's not just that. I think it's a pattern in my life overall. It's just especially hard right now. But like, throughout the day, I get up and I walk around and my brain says I'm hungry. So I open the cupboard doors and, look around for this snack or that snack. And I'm like, oh, no, I don't need to eat anything. And I do that probably 400 times a day. No exaggeration. I constantly get up, walk over to the cupboard. Oh, I could have that. No, I don't feel like and then I walk away. And then, or I grab a handful of M&Ms and I'll come back to food. It's a constant pattern, and it's figuring out, I guess, talking about it, identifying it, and then hearing suggestions from you on alternatives or whatever. So, but that's the pattern, and it's literally 400 times a day.
Yeah, no, I hear you. And that's, yeah, like I'd love to chat with you on the side, but I don't think you're different than most of us.
Yeah,
Like
and
it's,
I agree.
yeah,
You know, I
yeah.
think it's yeah.
So like moving into just like one example. So I want to talk a little bit about how movement helps. So like today, that's what I did was I put in my headphones. I went out for a 15-minute walk at like 3 in the afternoon. We have to do things like that's going to be, again, it's the quiver, it's the arrows. You've got to create some other arrows that you can pull out when you are if you're typically drawn to the food, or looking in the cupboard, that would be a different time to dissect that. But having some additional things that may be healthy as a different pattern. Um, so I want to just talk about how movement is helpful. I used to do militant punishing exercise. I used to go at 5:30 in the morning to spin classes. Yes, they felt great, but the whole thing was fear of getting fat. Um, just trying to find new things that allow for some movement when we move our bodies, we start to realize, again, like in our tune-in session, I am great. This body is a gift. The fact that we even can try to use it to talk about these things, to have sex with people, to go on vacations, to enjoy a meal. They are vehicles. And as we move our bodies more, we start to say, this is such a blessing that I have this body. So I really just, in my experience of defining my relationship to food, my big turning point was when I discovered yoga. So I quit the gym. I stuck with hiking on the weekends and going to do yoga, finding exercise and that benefits you and you feel like I enjoy this when I do it. Any of you guys have some just favorites for movement? I mean, Nikki, you do a lot of stuff around your house and your yard. That's movement.
Yeah. And sadly, one positive thing, I guess, out of the whole COVID thing is I felt like one of the things we have to do is move. And it was in my brain. I wanted to keep my body up. And so I go out. I can't go anywhere else. I go out and just walk my whole property line, not a huge property, but I just walked all around. I tried to take deep breaths. So I think that was a good exercise for me because I don't normally do that. Normally what I do is, run to my porch and have a cigarette and then come back in. And that's my fresh air every day, which is not fresh air.
The irony. But okay, what that's telling me is that that pause is valuable for you. I've joked about becoming a smoker because I'm like, I would take a pause then. I would get up and go and sit outside because you are outside.
Yeah.
I really encourage breath work. April and I do breath work sessions together. It's April, do you feel like what has that done for you? Like thinking about your breath more?
I think it's good. I am not good at doing it on my own, but I love our sessions.
But yeah.
One day I'll work up to it. But yeah, it's been so fun. I think I have been more mindful though, or just as I've tried to, in my work day, trying to take deep breaths. Because sometimes it's like, we just like hold our breath when we should be breathing, And so I think it's just good to like just have more awareness of that. And I think too, just like doing exercises and things you like. I've had stuff too where it's like you just think you have to do something a certain way, or someone's like really into like CrossFit, or like everybody will get like crazy. It's like with diets, like this is the only way to do things. And I'm like, I don't like that. Like I don't want someone treating me like I'm an army recruit, I like the more gentle, enjoyable, pleasurable exercises.
And we're not going to I mean, really, if you think about your body responding to you, think about the relationship. Think about with a partner or a child. If you're forcing stuff, it's not building a healthy relationship, whether that's food, whether that's exercise. So as we, again, consistency, frequency, as we do things that we finish it and go, that felt good. I would call it Body for Death from the Body for Life book, and I hate CrossFit. Other people love it, but like, I do not like it. I remember getting a Fitbit and going absolutely psycho on it. I remember like I was going, I mean, here I already naturally love to move. And then I put something on me that makes me move a certain point. And I was going psycho. It was my friend Linda that said, Britta, you know you can take that off. And I was like, oh, yeah, I could take that off. So it's finding, and that's again, just like we're talking about with our food, it's test, assess. Do things and say, how does that feel? Like going on that walk this afternoon felt great. And then if you want to start adding some new movement habits to your life, BJ Fogg, Tiny Habits, add new habits to habits you already have. You brush your teeth every day. If you drink coffee every day, add a habit before or after that. Like something little, something small. Before your coffee, so I was getting out of bed, and before I had my coffee, I was doing 20 squats. I was not drinking my coffee until I did my meditation. Add little tiny habits and only do a few to something you already do, and the habits will start to pair with each other. And you're going to start to ingrain. They've found that when you pair a new habit with something you already do regularly, and you don't go overboard on the new habit, you just do something little, you will start to see incremental improvements. So just think about that if you want to start doing some push-ups, or you want to say, I go on a 5-minute walk around the block or my property before I do blah, 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 or after I do blah, blah, blah. That's a great way to bring some movement in. One thought that I had with you, Nikki, is setting alarms so that you are timing yourself on in between your breaks. So one way that you could put some boundaries around when you get up and stare at the fridge or the cupboard is say, okay, I know I like breaks, but I'm going to start taking them every 15 minutes and it's going to be deliberate. Again, this is mindfulness 101. We are trying to shine a light on and become aware of things that we're doing. So, as you walk through the door, you do something regularly. As you're at a stoplight, you know you always do 3 deep breaths. You start to create little patterns. And that's where I think it's sometimes fun to just make a little bit of a plan and say, I'm going to try this for 2 weeks and see how it feels when I do this. It's not a guarantee. It's more fun to get experimentative and to be thinking about it as a fun relationship, sustainable, happy relationship you're trying to create than some starvation mode, punishing exercise. Like, I love thinking of my food relationship as a relationship I'm trying to develop. And I giggled when I recorded this session because I was like, oh wait, this is my quote. Is that okay to like quote yourself?
Totally. You're making it, yeah. Like
So
that's a baller move.
there is not just one way into health. Each time we make a positive change in one area of our life, it opens the door to improvements in other areas. Health begets health. I really believe, like, as you start to think of your health in your food world as a healthy relationship that you would want with your partner, you're going to start thinking of healthier ways you approach your friends and your partners. If you start thinking of the way that you approach money in a healthier way, again, you start to shine the light of awareness on it. You are going to think, you're going to create it. I do believe that, like that wheel of life, we start working on bringing all of those levels up to the 10 and moving out to the outer circle, and focus on one first. And then you're going to start to see improvements that just keep building. I mean, my yoga, my meditation, my health, all of these things have been a building process over decades. And I mean, just my biggest thing is, creating a healthy relationship to food is a process. Any questions or thoughts that anyone has before we wrap up? I just have one more slide about staying connected.
I was gonna say a plan's a big thing, Nikki. I don't know. Like I've in times in my life when I'm just like eating garbage all the time and jumping to things, it's usually because I'm working and I'm so busy and then I don't have something ready to go. And so I just go to the quickest thing possible, which is not ever the best thing because I'm just desperate. But then it's like doesn't fulfill me. And so I just am hitting it over and over. For me lately, I've been trying to get into crock potting. So I'm like, I'm in my 40s. I've never used a crock pot before, you know, and I'll just like it's like more meal prepping where I like have like a good protein and some vegetables. I'll do like a giant pan of vegetables and then I can just eat that for several days for like lunch and dinner. And I'm like, I'm way less frantic because breakfasts are easier. And I've noticed like I'm not snacking as much because I have like a good meal and I know it's there. And so even if I only have a quick break, I just hurry and go throw it in my little toaster oven and
Yep.
yeah.
And I feel like good habits like that or habits that we're developing like that also for me, because I feel like I do those things, but it's almost like the next fad diet. I only do it for a period of time and then I'll try something different. And then I'll, you know, like there was a period where I was eating breakfast every day. And, you know, I can consciously say I did feel better when I was making some bacon or eggs or sausage every morning and, you know, trying to eat right better. Not bacon and eggs for me is better, but you know,
You were eating, yeah.
yeah. And but normally I don't eat, you know, until you know noon or 1 o'clock. So I don't
Nikki,
know.
you and I should talk about the possibility of coaching.
Yeah.
I mean, truly,
No,
because
I agree.
sometimes,
Yeah, I agree.
sometimes even if it was like an every 2 weeks or month or 2 months we checked in, it's like getting something down on paper, creating a plan that's easy, again, gentle. I love that word gentle, and that you are coming back to and having some accountability. So
Yeah, accountability. Yes.
just so you guys know, yeah, I can do health coaching. I'm going to be starting a mindful morning series in 2022. So basically Tuesday and Thursday from 6:30 to 7 for 6 weeks, I'm doing morning routines. So basically there'll be a little bit of Kundalini Vinyasa yoga. There'll be a brief moment of breath work and meditation and mindfulness thought. So they're just a half an hour. It's a way to start creating that morning routine so that the first thing you tell yourself in the morning on at least those 2 days is, I own my day. I'm taking charge. I am worth it. So just keep your eye out for that. I do Kundalini Vinyasa fusion classes right now. I'm getting signed up at Solid Power Yoga, so I'll be doing those twice a month. And just keep your eye out for classes. We can talk about, I do health coaching, so breathwork sessions. So I'm refining what it is I'm doing, but this has been a topic that's near and dear to my heart based on a 20-year journey. And so I don't think that the fad diet, the whole purpose of this class is to say, how do we create something that's sustainable? So hopefully there's been a few tips. I'll send out just an email. Would love any feedback from people. Thoughts, questions? Otherwise, I want to let you go on your way because we've been together for 2 hours.
Best 2 hours of my day.
2 hours of bliss. Yes. Yeah. What is your mindful mornings? Is that like every day or just like once a week?
It's just going to be Tuesday, Thursday, 6:30 to 7. You can, if you register for it, you'll get the recording by the end of the day on the day of. And if you're wanting to create a morning routine, I encourage you to listen to the recordings in the morning, like the next morning, but twice a week for 6 weeks. So you'll have 12 sessions live and or recorded.
Awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm excited about that one.
Do we eat broccoli during part of the session as well?
We're going to record it for her, Britta, when I eat broccoli.
Perfect.
Wait.
I love it.
Like the first time I tried sushi, and that's only been one time. So.
Oh, Hey, that was something I listened to today. Thanks, Sherry. Love you, Oodles. Um, I was listening today, like you have to start learning what tastes interest you, what textures, taste, bitter, sweet, anything like, and do those things that you like first. Don't torture yourself with things you don't like.
Mhm.
Uh, yeah, and again, like Nikki, like April was saying, like consistency. That is why I had to go on a food plan for a while, because I was so all over the place that I'm like, all right, what the magic sauce was a food plan, not eating the foods that were jerking me around and having accountability with other people. But that was the journey for me. I don't think that I don't, some of those things are and are not necessary, but I do think some consistency, some frequency, a bit of a plan, preparing food on Sundays so that you have it, timers on your phone or your watch. But let's chat more.
Yeah.
I love you too. I love you three that are on here still.
Yeah.
Love
Great
you.
time.
It was so nice. It was so good.
I'll see you Friday morning, April.
Okay, can't wait. Bye.
Hey, love y'all. Bye.
Love you. Bye.
Guys.
Bye.